Howdy, howdy, Chris here, and today we're going to repair and paint the Chevy truck. We do need to paint the hood, the fender, and the door. We are going to be talking about how to use a wet bed for blending your metallics. We also have to do a little bit of unexpected body work on a replacement fender. All that in today's episode, so let's get in the garage and make some noise. Our aftermarket replacement fender unfortunately came with a little bit of damage, so we're going to go ahead and repair this today. I opted to keep this fender rather than send it back and wait for another one. They discounted the price and we're going to repair it. So I went ahead and sanded it with some 80 grit sandpaper so I can expose the dents and show you what we got. We've got a crown in the center here with a couple low spots on either side. So we're going to go ahead and take our spoon and hammer and knock this down. Knock that high ridge down, level it out, block it, and then we'll put some filler on it. By using the spoon and hammer, we're going to level out that high area without creating any dents. So now that we have this pretty much flattened out to just a wave, I've mixed up some Roberlo Maxi Light and we're going to lay a thin coat over this entire area. Now I grab my Mirka orbital sander with some 80 grit sandpaper and we're just going to shape this with the orbital sander and flatten it out a little bit before we start blocking it. Now that I've got this shape the way that I want, I'm going to spray a little guide coat and we're going to grab some 180 grit sandpaper and I'm going to put it on my flexible block. And then we're going to block this in an X pattern to get it straight. It's always good to have a variety of different types of blocks for different situations. This block works perfectly because there's a little bit of a contour to this fender and it's flexible, and also it's long enough that it covers most of this area. Now I'm going to clean this area and get it ready to lay in our final coat of filler. This is a polyester glazing putty that works very well, sands very easy, and it's great to remove any little waves or imperfections in your body filler. We're going to mix this up using 2% hardener, and I just like to fold it in until it's all one uniform color. Now we're going to spread it with a tight coat, which we're applying a little bit of pressure on the spreader as we lay it in. While I was straightening that fender, Darius has been working hard stripping down the front part of this hood. Now this hood was loaded with stone chips and it needed to be stripped down to bare metal just to get rid of them. It was the quickest and easiest thing to do. He ran over it with some 80 grit sandpaper. Then we're going to use some self-etching primer to cover that bare metal before we put a 2K urethane primer on it. I had a little bit of icing left over from the fender, so I went over to the hood and there were some stone chips deeper into the hood that got missed and that we didn't really want to strip down, so we're just going to go ahead and fill those with a little bit of that polyester filler. Now that the icing is cured, we're going to go ahead and block it out with some 180 grit sandpaper on the flexible block. When you're blocking out your body filler, you want to block in a cross or X pattern. That is a technique used to get it straight. Then we'll go over this panel with a 320 grit sandpaper on our orbital sander. We're going to machine sand this entire fender to get it prepped out for paint. We'll also go over the body filler to remove any of those 180 grit scratches. Before I prime, I'm going to mask off the edge of this fender so we don't get any overspray on the inside, and then we'll machine sand out this hood with 320 grit sandpaper. We're going to clean up all those icing areas and those chips and get those smoothed out and ready for primer. Now I've mixed up some Roberlo ME1 primer. This is a direct to metal primer. That's a very good primer that sands out nice and easy, and we're going to put 2 coats of this primer over the fender and the hood. I'm using my 3M Performance gun with the 1.4 tip to apply this primer. I did find some imperfections in the hood, so I went over with some Roberlo spot putty. I am applying a guide coat over this fender for our final sanding. I'm using my orbital sander, 320 grit sandpaper on an interface pad. That's a flexible pad that curves to the contours of the fender or the parts that you're sanding so you don't burn through any edges. Our spot putty is cured, so we're going to sand this hood with some 320 grit sandpaper, get it all smoothed out and ready for paint. Darius and I are going to remove this hood in order to paint it. Then we'll mask off the rest of the truck. We're going to wash it with wax and grease remover. This will remove any contaminants on the surface of these panels. Then we'll do a final tack cloth to clean off any dust or particles that have landed on these surfaces. Typically, I would not use a wet bed on this particular color, but it is another 100-degree day here in Oklahoma, and this is a metallic finish. So just to be safe, I'm going to spray these panels with a wet bed. Now, what a wet bed is it's just straight binder, and you reduce it just like you reduce your paint. Now, what it does is it creates a good base for those metallics to lay down in and lay flat and give you a good transition in your blend. They also fill any micro scratches that you might have with material, so when you go to apply your paint, it doesn't lay funny in any scratches. I've got my paint pre-mixed, so I'm going to switch it over with the PPS system quickly and then move right on to spraying the base color. The first coat, I'm going to get all the primer covered, and then we'll move on to spraying the entire hood. One thing you want to be concerned about when you're spraying high metallic finishes, and this is not a high metallic finish, but you want to make sure you're overlapping at least 60–70%. You want those metallics to lay down in a uniform manner so they look good after you clear coat them. So I'm going to spray the entire fender first and get a good coverage on the fender. And I'm probably just going about 3 or 4 inches into the door at this point. We'll be doing our blend later on. Now I'm putting the second coat of paint on this fender, and I'm going to start working my blend out into the door, probably 4 to 6 inches. Okay, but I'm going to hit it heavy on that blend, 4 to 6 inches heavy, and then I go back and I'll put a dust coat on over it to get a uniform consistency with those metallics. Now, you won't see me putting a lot of coats on for a blend, especially on a hot day. That can cause sand piling, which is metallic buildup that is rough and hard to clear coat over, and it just makes it the job more difficult. Now it's time for clear coat. I am using the V Series Euro Clear. This is a high solids clear that has a very durable clear and flows out beautifully. I am using the 3M Performance gun with a 1.2 tip for clear coat. I use the 1.3 for base and the 1.2 for clear. Now, when you're making your passes, you want to overlap 60 to 70%. You want to be 3 to 4 inches away. Depending on how you like to spray, you want to have a consistent speed and a consistent distance from the panel. That's going to give you the best results. And like I always say, you want to keep an eye on the clear coat as you're laying it down, making sure it's flowing out how you want it to look. Now on the first coat, it may be a little bit dry, or it may not flow out quite like you want it to, but that's okay because you need to put 2 coats on. But today is a hot day for me, and I can really lay down the clear on a hood. It's a flat surface. You don't have to be concerned about it running. So you can see I'm going a little bit slower, and I'm really evaluating that clear and letting it flow out nicely. The way I have my gun set up is I have my fan pattern almost wide open. It's dialed back about half a turn, and I have my fluid at 3 turns out from closed. My air pressure is set at 20 psi, and this 3M performance gun, it calls for 20 psi. I was a little skeptical when I first started using it, but really it's perfect. It's low overspray, and it really helps it to atomize really well, even at 20 psi. Just to let you guys know, if any of you are looking to purchase a gun, I encourage you to really take a hard look at this 3M performance gun. It's not real expensive. It's not a $700 gun. This gun runs, I think, around $250 for this starter kit. That is an amazing value for this gun. This is very versatile. It comes with multiple different tips, and you can use them for different applications, for primer, for sealer, for base coat, and for clear coat. It cleans up very easy, and that's really what I love about it. It makes my job a lot easier on cleanup and just getting these paint jobs done quickly. And the performance is, I mean, you can see it right here. It's beautiful performance, and I think it's a good gun for someone just starting out to learn on. I really do. I know this is my go-to gun right at this point. I'm not reaching for my DeVilbiss. I'm not reaching for the Segola. I'm reaching for this 3M performance gun because it's so easy to work with and versatile. I know this is the gun that I would purchase if I was just starting out. I do have links down in the description to all the products and tools I use, including this gun, and I do have a video review and demo on this gun. I'll leave a link at the end. Do you find these videos helpful? If you do, let me know down in the comments. You can also leave any questions you have, and if you want to support the channel, I have a thank you button in the header that you can leave a tip or just like and subscribe to the channel. And be sure to check out my storefront to links to all the products and tools I use and anything you might need to make your project a success. Now let's finish up this truck and take a look at the finished product. This channel is only made possible by your continued support. So thanks for supporting the channel, and if you want to learn how, check it out down in the description. Check out this finished product. Beautiful paint job, and it was a blast to do. I appreciate each and every one of you watching. We'll see you next time on Garage Noise.